The secret number for Lesson 6 is 77. Lesson 6, singing in different styles. Here is the bottom line for when you are singing in different styles that you want to be mindful of. Just as we talked about in the previous lessons, one of the major issues when people try and sing in a style is that they emulate or imitate their favorite artists in that style. And so they think, okay, what is it that I can do to my voice so that I can create the sound that I want for this particular style of music? Let's say, for example, that you're trying to do a style that's of a more country sound. And then you listen to an artist and you notice that as they sing, they always sing something like, I was singing country, I'm just doing an example for you. And so you think, oh, that's great, that looks normal, I could do that too. And then what am I doing? I'm causing tension in my throat 'cause my head's sitting in front of me. Can you still have the brightness of the tone that you want for the style without the tension? Absolutely. One of the things about tone and timbre is the idea is that you can use bright or dark tone correctly in any genre of music. So now again, just as a reminder, brightness of sound is something whereas if I were to speak and I were to get to the extreme of speaking bright, I would speak something like this. Now, as I'm doing this, some of you, if you're from Rochester, notice that the sound sounds like some people when they think about an accent from Rochester or from Boston. If I sing with or speak with a very dark tone, I could go to this extreme. And then people think about when people are talking from England and they have a very British sound, that they're very tall and very exaggerated in their vowels in that particular position. Notice that I'm speaking English both ways, but it's a very different sound. Now, I can sing a bright or a dark sound with tension or without tension. So if I sing a phrase of dark sound with tension, it could be something like this. I am singing with tension in my throat. I can sing with a dark sound without any of that tension. I am singing without tension in my throat. And you might notice that the timbre and the sound, the tone changed, and it's more natural, even though I'm singing with the same amount of volume or I'm singing with the same amount of words. Same thing with bright. I could sing, I am singing with lots of tension in my throat. I am singing like a belting song, but I can't do it for long with the tension in my throat. I could also belt without any tension at all and have that bright sound and go for a while. I can sing with a bright sound in my throat. I could do this for hours if I wanted to. The moral of the story is that you can emulate the styles without tension in the throat, and you can do it with your own natural voice, which is what the eventual goal is. Now, there are a lot of different instructional videos that I place in this module to show you how to sing in different ways. And I just want to discuss a couple things about your different vocal ranges and your voices, which are not really talked about very much in those videos or in the text. So, males and females are a little bit different in terms of how their voice works. Before puberty, both males and females basically have the same type of ranges. So there is what's known as your chest voice or your low voice, and then there's your middle or your break range, where the voice is trying to figure out if it's the chest voice or the head voice. And then there's your head voice or your high voice. Now for gentlemen, after puberty, there's an additional range above your head voice, which is known as falsetto. Falsetto is very popular in modern day pop music, and it's used a lot to be able to sing. And essentially it's where before puberty, that's where a lot of guys' voices ranged, and then as their voice dropped, they kept some of that range, which is known as falsetto. If I were to sing from my chest voice into my head voice into my falsetto, it would sound like this. And you could hear the difference in the different ranges. Now, the reason why the middle range or the break is talked about between those is because, and for each person it's different, in certain ranges, in certain notes, it's a little bit harder for the voice to distinguish if it's supposed to sing in chest voice or head voice and falsetto. And you inevitably get, if it's not engaged or it doesn't know which one to sing, this idea of break, or sometimes people hear it in the extreme version, especially in adolescent boys, ah. So for example, if I sing without any engagement of the diaphragm, I will definitely hear that as I go around. Example. So you could hear it, and the voice doesn't know what to do when it gets in those spots. And of course, most people don't want that to happen. And so the trick to be able to negotiate between your different ranges so you don't get that break that's prominent is what's known as mixture. Mixture is where you're taking and you're using the diaphragmatic engagement and you're mixing different levels of head voice with chest voice or head voice with falsetto as you're negotiating through so that it sounds like a more clean-cut way. Example, if I were to do that with the diaphragmatic pressure. And by the way, why is it important to have the diaphragm pressure? Just like with any singing. This is where you want the tension to be so that nothing happens up here. If you don't have this, eventually something's going to kick in up in your throat, and that's where you're going to get the break. So if I were to do that same exercise, but I try and mix, it would sound like this. There's going to be a definite change between falsetto and head, gentlemen, but you want to try and make it as not as perceptible as possible. Now, doing it from the bottom up is the more difficult way to add the mixture. If you're doing it from the top down, it becomes easier to figure it out because what happens is trying to integrate more head voice into the chest voice, there's a lot less tension to be had. I'll give an example from the top down this time. Several different vocal instructional methods talk about the idea of mixture and doing it from the top down versus the bottom up. And so as you're trying this and you're practicing your demonstration, I would highly recommend going that direction first. You can use different vowels, different ways. The point of the matter is you want to make sure that keep this relaxed as you're going through and keep this engaged.